Here's the crazy thing. Over 70% of new home buyers end up spending way more than they thought that they would. Well, I don't know if 70% is accurate, but I know a lot of people probably miss out on a ton of deals and incentives and probably pay a little bit more than they should. They may get taken advantage of and might, for some of them, even be getting ripped off. So I don't want you to be one of those people. I want to help you get the best deal possible when it comes to talking to a builder, getting a brand new home for you and your family. So today we're going to give you some negotiating secrets that'll help you when it comes to buying new construction real estate. If we haven't met before, my name is Zach. My team and I, we sell real estate here in the DFW marketplace. Specifically, we sell a ton of new construction. So we've helped hundreds of families do exactly what I'm going to share with you today on how to get the best deals possible. So if I can help you in any way, whether you're buying off of their inventory or you are building, we are here to help any way we can. We got our contact information. It's at the bottom. Jumping right in, I've got a couple of different things. We're going to kind of lightning through some of these things. So be ready, take some notes. You can always come back and check it out. So number one thing I think is the most important to make sure you understand is the difference between a builder inventory home and a build job. So like dirt up process versus buying off of their inventory, because those negotiations are two very different negotiations. We're going to do a little bit on the front end and talk like, hey, here's how we negotiate on a build job. So like dirt to completion versus, hey, here's how we negotiate on an inventory home. Like I said, because there's a couple of different nuances that you've got to be aware of. So the biggest difference for me is building from the ground up versus inventory. Is ground up, we have several different things that we've got to get, right? We've got to make sure we get, if there's a lot premium, so we've got the lot premium included, we've got structural options, we've got design incentives, we've got standard feature upgrades, and then of course we do all of those things, and we still need to have money left in our back pocket to make sure we have help to cover your closing costs, buy your interest rate down, rate promo, anything like that, right? So we've got to wrap all of those things together. And some builders kind of come out and put all of that money into one singular pool and tell you, oh, you have $30 or $40 or $45,000, and you can use it for structure, you can use it for design, you can use it for lending, you can use it however you want. And it's kind of confusing. Some of them are actually separating it out and saying, hey, we have this much money toward your design and structure, and then this much money is already secured for your lending and your closing costs. And honestly, I love it when it's that way because it makes it a little bit easier. So we've got to go in and we got to ask and make sure we get stuff for structural upgrades and design, but also make sure we have money for your closing costs, your interest rate buy downs, and things like that. So all of those things are a little bit negotiable. I will tell you, from an inventory standpoint to a build standpoint, it's going to feel like you probably have a little bit more incentive money on an inventory, and I'm going to get to why in a minute, because on a build, it's spread out across the board, and so you just see it in a little bit different way. It's still a lot of money that they're going to give you, but it just feels like it's spread out a little bit different way. So keys to helping with this is asking, hey, can we negotiate on a lot premium? Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. That doesn't mean like if they say we're charging $60,000 for the beautiful corner, like they're not going to make that zero, but that 60 might be 40, it might be 45. It just depends, right? So, or the 15 might become 7. So there's room to negotiate on that. The other piece on the build job is you can ask, some builders will pre-negotiate for certain upgrades, right? So like if you're thinking, hey, we want to have LVP flooring throughout all the main areas, we can say, hey, can we go ahead and get that as a credit so we don't have to use that for design? Hey, we want to have our kitchen island wrapped so that it's not the sheetrock on the backside, it's actually a cabinet wrap. Can that go ahead and get included so we don't have to pay for that in design? Hey, can we get a upgrade on our kitchen? Can we get the two-tone cabinets? We can ask for those things. They're not always going to say yes, but those are kind of things that we can potentially ask for. That way we're not spending our design money on those, and we can get them included in the contract. This is also important to know, like when you're looking at these things, get as much information as you can. So for example, some builders, if you go with a painted brick option, you're going to pay a upcharge to paint that brick. Make sure we ask about that. You're going to, if you see a rendering online and it has black windows, most builders do not include black windows. That is going to be an upcharge, and you will be shocked at how expensive those black windows are. Trust me, they are not cheap. And it's not one singular builder that's cheaper. They're all expensive when it comes to black windows. And it's like, if you want it, you're probably gonna have to ask for it. So make sure we ask for things like that. And again, all of those things are negotiable on a build home. We can do a whole separate video kind of talking about build. Oh, and of course, structure. So you're not necessarily gonna be able to, and this is important, I need to qualify this. When we're designing, there's not a negotiation when it comes to the cost of what things cost. Let me clarify. So if the builder comes to you and says, hey, you really want the conversion to a, to a study, and they say, okay, that's $4,500. You can't come back and say, well, I really only want to pay $35, or my cousin Jim Bob said he could do it for $15 and 2 cases of beer. It's not like that. Like the cost to do something is the cost to do it. Like there's no negotiating on that. Where we do negotiate and say, hey, can we get additional funds to help us do the things that we want to do? Same thing with like when we're in the design center and you're upgrading to like a level 4 floor or a level 6 tile. Like the cost is what the cost is. There's not like, I really don't like that. They don't barter on that price. What we try to get is more money to help cover those kinds of things when we're in those design centers and making those selections. So it's not like, yeah, you can't say, well, we could do it cheaper. No, that's not that. So just get that out of your head right now. So let's move on to our inventory homes. So these are homes that builders build on speculation. So I'm going to give you a bunch of different terms probably throughout this video. Speculation is like a builder is speccing this home. They're assuming that somebody's going to show up and buy it. Or it's a home that they thought had a build contract on it, and then it comes back to them and it's on their inventory. And this could be anything on inventory from like, hey, we just started the home and you might be able to make some changes, to, hey, we're almost done with the home, to the home is completed, sitting and ready to go. So those homes, like those are the places. So when you look at those, you're not necessarily negotiating for the lot premium and cabinets and the cut, like all of that's already included in the pricing. What we're negotiating for is our closing cost incentives and price reduction, or any final last minute incentives, garage epoxy, blinds, washer, dryer, fridge, anything that would come up kind of at the end. So you'll see the pricing kind of baked in to what it is. So you're just trying to get your incentive money. And of course they're going to always advertise something, but you just need to know like, hey, that's what we're working on with those negotiations. If you're looking at this and you're thinking, hey, washer, dryer, fridge, blinds are a great one because they can do those relatively easy most of the time. Washer, dryer, fridge, you need to know like, hey, it's not going to be anything super spectacular. It's going to be like a basic stainless steel fridge and a basic water. You're not going and picking cafe style KitchenAid. Like they're not negotiating for that. So it's one of those things like, if we get it, it's super awesome. But if we don't get it, you're better off, going to Home Depot or Lowe's or something and getting your own deal after the fact than being super stuck on getting those kind of things from your builder. Last thing, and then we're going to get into some nitty gritty of like the practical of how this works. When you see pricing online, and this kind of goes back to earlier to the build side, when you see pricing online and you're looking at a floor plan and it says, oh, this floor plan is $399,999. It's not. If it is a inventory home that has an address on it and you see it like through Zillow or Realtor or on the builder's website and it has an address, that pricing is probably a little bit more structured. But like you see base price plans, so that's like, hey, this is what it would cost just for the base. This is without any structural upgrades. This is without any design upgrades. So if you see that, just know you need to add 12, 15%, give or take, on something where you see just base pricing, unless it has an address attached to it. So as we get into the details, the number one thing I'm going to tell you, and I think everything from this point like flows out of this idea, is I need you to understand that you have to be realistic in what we're asking for. Is there money to pay for your closing costs? Yes, we can help get that. Is there money for rate buy downs? Probably so. Is there price reduction? Yes, in some cases. Now, if you call me and you're like, Zach, we saw this $400,000 home and we're trying to negotiate with the builder and we're trying to get them down to $300,000. I'm gonna be like, well, listen, I can do a lot of amazing things. We can make a lot of cool things happen. We have story after story of countless deals that we've gotten for homeowners, but I need you to know I am not a miracle worker. That is reserved for Jesus himself, and it is not Zach. So if you call me and you're like, yeah, it's 400 and we want it at 300, I want to be realistic with you. It's not happening. There might be some one-off case scenario where it happens, but for the most part, it's probably not happening. So first of all, be realistic in what we're asking for. And if you see any of my other videos, I've talked about this in all of those map videos we just recently did. You saw some big, like the higher the price, the more we saw reductions come down. If you're in the $600-700 range, we might see a $30, $40, $50, $60,000 price reduction on something listed, and then there might be a little bit more wiggle room on top of that. If the lower we are, the less movement there's going to be on pricing. So if we're realistic and we're expectations, we're going in and we're asking. And part of it, like, you don't want them, like if you end up buying in a neighborhood, you don't want them reducing it like that, right? Because what the builder's trying to do is they have to protect their comps, so their comparables, and they also have to protect anybody else that's previously bought and anybody else that's going to buy in the neighborhood. So if they get this one-off home that they come through and it drops crazy on price, like that's not going to look good for them, and it's not going to look good for your neighbors and you when you're trying to sell. So you want them doing that. Whereas if we come in and we get more closing cost, or we get more incentives, or things thrown in, those can kind of get buried in a transaction. What you get may not be the same as what somebody else gets, and so it just really depends. So be reasonable in what we ask for. Is there going to be room to move? Yes. I would always tell people, hey, think 10 to 15, not 15 to 25, right? So 5, 10, maybe 15,000, maybe, depending on the home. And it's all just kind of a back and forth conversation that you and your agent, which is hopefully me, and the sales rep is going to have to get you the best deal possible. So we're going to try our best to be realistic in what we ask for. We're going to understand that they are baking in those incentives dollars, right? So if the builder says, hey, we've got $20,000, well, can we make it 25 and get 5 off the price? Yeah, that's a reasonable ask. Hey, can we get 20 off the price and 40 in closing cost? That's not a reasonable ask. They're not gonna probably want to work with us on that deal, right? The other piece of this is understanding how much influence and power these sales reps, so the person that works for the builder, how much they actually have and what they can do. So here's a couple terms that I'm going to throw at you. So you've got to understand, like, back pocket money, right? So you have, hey, this is what's advertised. It's like, hey, this is what we can do, and this is the promo that we're running. In that community, every sales rep, probably the term is used, back pocket money. And this is like, hey, it's a discretionary fund. It's like, hey, we know we can do this without going to management and getting it approved and the deal get written at any point, right? That's different community to community. It's different builder to builder, and it's different sales rep to sales rep, because some of them have been doing it longer, have proven themselves, have more, their company trusts them, so they have more ability to do things. Others of them work for bigger box companies, and they are more streamlined on how they do things. And it's like, hey, we're not going to take a deviation, and this is what we do, right? So back pocket money, like $5,000-7,000, it's like, yeah, we can get that done. Anything beyond that, they basically take, we submit the offer, they take it to management, they look at it, and they say, hey, can we do this? Can we not do this? What does this look like in our neighborhood? Who's buying it? How confident are we? Do we have a contingency? All of that, right? So it's a very much a give and take, back and forth. And so I always want to tell you, like, hey, we want to ask for, like, I have no shame in asking for anything realistic. But if we ask for it and we get it, we got to be ready to move, right? So like if I come to you and we're negotiating a deal back and forth, and we say, hey guys, we're going to ask for another $10,000, but if we get it, are you confident that this is your house? Are you ready to move forward? Because if we can say yes to that and tell the sales rep, hey Sean, or hey, so-and-so, if we can do this, we're ready to move forward. Well, then they can take that to management on our behalf and say, look, here's where they're at. Here's their credit score. Here's what we've talked about. This is what I need money-wise to get them, and we're ready to roll. They want to sell that house, right? Like, I want you to buy the house that you want. The sales rep wants you to buy the house that you want. The lender, like, everybody's like, I know at times it can feel, oh, this is adversarial and everybody's against me. I promise you they're not. They're here to help you win. Like, if you want some real transparency, your real estate agent is paid on commission. They don't make any money until you close. Lenders are paid on commission. They don't make any money until you close. Sales reps are paid on commission. They don't make any money until you close, right? So everybody wants you to buy that house, right? They don't, and please don't hear me saying this in a way like, hey, this is like, we're all trying to slide something past you. Like, it's not that. It's to say, we want to all work together to get you the best deal we can. And if we get to what you need, we need to be ready to roll. So what I don't want to do is send out a deal and like, hey, continually make and it's like, oh, we got it. And then be like, well, it's like if you give a mouse a cookie and then it's like, well, this, and then can I get this? And then can I get this? And at some point they're just going to tell us, no, we've done all we can. This is where we're at. We can take it or we can leave it. And again, that just that comes down to you. We know about back pocket money. We know that they have to go to management and get approval. We also have to understand seasonality of deals, right? So a deal that I got at the end of the year in December is not going to be the same deal that we're able to get in January, February. It's just not, right? Because builders are looking at the end of a year and they're saying, oh, we need to move things off our books. So for example, I have a client, we closed on their house probably a week and a half before Christmas. It was an inventory home that had been sitting. The builder needed to move it. We got a big price reduction. We got closing costs. We got rate buy down. You just stack it on top of, and it's like that deal happened, and we closed in like 30 days. It was wild, and they got it all done before the end of the year. That deal happened because it was seasonality and it needed to happen. That deal wouldn't happen the second week of January. Right? There's still going to be money to play with and there's still going to be incentives. So you just kind of got to understand those seasonalities. Some of them, it matters more than others for some builders. So think, in terms of big business, like quarterly, right? So we're at the end of a quarter, we're at the end of a season. Hey, we're at the end of a phase and we know we're trying to be done and move out. There's good money there. Hey, we're at the very beginning of a neighborhood and they haven't sold anything yet. There's good incentive to be made there because it's the first couple of homes. Just understand the seasonality of that. Understand it, it plays itself out like that. It helps. This is where I'll tell you, it helps when you have an agent that spends a lot of time with sales reps. So then, because here's the deal. We get the text of I got this text last week. Hey, our boss sent us an email this morning that said we need to get some contracts in. So if we got anything we can work on, let's see what we can do to get it over the finish line, right? And it's like, okay, we know that. We're going to use that to our advantage. Again, it doesn't mean we're going to go crazy and get something unheard of, but we're all going to be realistic in what we get. So understand the seasonality of that. Understand what the sales rep can approve and what they can't without going to management, and see what we can do to make sense of that. Communicate your desires openly and honestly with your agent, with the sales rep, and be like, hey, this is what we're looking at. We're thinking, we want this house, we like this, and if you don't like it, just straight up tell somebody. Be like, hey, this house doesn't fit for us. I promise you're not calling their baby ugly. I promise you, I'm not going to be offended. They're not going to be just tell them hey, it doesn't fit for us. Okay, cool. Let's move on, right? We're not here to waste people's time. So we want to, do all those things. Understand the last term I want to give you in terms of talking about the sales rep is a loss leader. So you'll see a home, and this is a sales tactic that a lot of builder agents will use, and they'll post a home and it'll be like, hey, this one home is, $399. Everything else is above $450. And it's like, oh, well, why? And it's like, well, we've been sitting on this home for the longest possible. We need to move it. We got it back, whatever. It's a loss leader, right? They're using it to drive traffic. And so if you like that specific home, you can get it. But, getting that deal on the home next door may not be possible just because of how they're working those deals, right? You're like, Zach, what I don't even know where to begin. How do we, there's so much going on in DFW. And I'd be like, yeah, there is a incredible amount of stuff going on in DFW. So we worked hard at the end of last year to build a brand new tool for you, and that I'm excited to share with you. So you can check out our new website. We have built one of the best, and we're still working on getting it all squared away, interactive tools for you to kind of click through and see hey, who's got new homes and where are they at and which community should we look at. And if you want to browse just directly new homes and you're like, oh, I don't even want to worry about resale, I don't want to see, you can click on our map. We've got the QR code on the screen. Hopefully you're watching this on your TV and you're doing this on your phone. Click the QR code and you listen to me and search, check it out. But we built that for you guys. So want that to be available. Check it out. I hope it's an amazing help for you. It can at least get you started on where you want to go. A couple more points to give you so that you don't feel like you're getting ripped off when it comes to buying from a new construction builder. And this is one that not a lot of people talk about because I don't know that a lot of people understand this thought. So when you're looking at resale homes, right, and you're trying to figure out, oh, hey, we should make an offer. What do we do? It's well, we look at it and you see what's kind of selling in the neighborhood. You see, hey, the house down the street went under contract. There's what's similar. How long has this home been on the market? Because if it's been on the market a long time, they're going to start to get desperate. And so that kind of helps. And then you're oh, hey, this is what we're doing in the neighborhood. And that kind of helps you craft your offer and your direction on a resale home. On a new home, That is not quite the case. So builders will look at comparables, but not in the same way that it's looked at on the resale market. So builders care more about their margin than they care about comparables, right? Because they've got, so on a resale side, they've got one home to sell, and it's like, hey, we need to make this much money so that we can buy our next house. The builder's saying, hey, we've got 100 homes to sell over the next 2.5 years. We've got, this is our margins. This is what we're expecting to do. This is the business plan on all of these. So when they're negotiating those deals, they're going to look at so two things with this. One, sometimes you're going to see days on market for new construction, and it's a little bit misleading because some builders will list a home as soon as they break dirt, right? As soon as they've got a shovel in the ground, they're going to get that home listed, and then it's going to take them 160 days. And so you're going to be like, oh, that house has been on the market for 200 days. We're going to get a really, really good deal. And it's like, well, maybe, but realistically, that house has only been completed for 20 days. And it's whatever. So it can be a little bit misleading on days on market. Some sales reps, some builders wait till they get it done. So you just kind of got to ask, and you can kind of tell, oh, hey, the home's been sitting. We've been watching it. There's going to be room, right? If you can find those homes that are kind of sitting for a little bit, yeah, you're definitely going to find some room. But anyway, sitting, done and completed, it's costing them money. That's going to be helpful, but just know the days on market can be a little bit misleading. But also the bigger piece, going back to margins, are probably one of the most important. So they're going to look at that and be like, okay, we can do this based on this and this. And before you ask me, no, they're not going to tell you their margins and how much they're making on that home. They don't have to. And truthfully, sales reps don't even really know. It's all in upper management, which is why they have to go to them and present those deals. So they're not going to tell you, so don't ask. Soapbox that for a second. But they're going to look at that necessarily against not so much as comparables, but hey, what can we do? What makes sense against our catalog? What makes sense against how many homes we've sold and that's kind of how they're going to negotiate their deals. The other thing that's hard on a builder side, if you're in a community and you're trying to take 2 or 3 different builders and shop them against each other, it's not always apples to apples. So sometimes it'll be it seems like it's pretty straightforward. This is the square footage, this is the bed count, this is the bath count, but you've got to calculate for builder reputation. You've got to calculate for standard features. You've got to calculate for incentive money, all of those. So you can do those comparisons and you can use that sometimes and be like, hey, Mr. Builder, Mrs. Builder over here, they're giving me this. And you can kind of almost pit them against each other, but just know that both of those builders are going to come back and say, well, here's the reason we're better, and here's the reason we're better, and this how, and so they'll look at that, but it's kind of like making chili, right? It all just kind of goes in together until you get to the final product. Not one of those specific things carries you to completion. It kind of comes all together. So we need to know that. I got 3 more things to give you. So if you're hanging in, I appreciate you hanging in with me. Number 1, if the builder tells you you'll get a better deal because you're not represented, you don't have a realtor, you should run far away. That is never, ever, ever the case. And truth be told, commission for your agent, most of the time here in DFW, it's out of a totally separate budget. It's not even attached to the home. It's in a marketing budget. So them being yeah, we'll give you, yeah, you can get a better deal. Run. And with that being said, that means you having representation is probably going to be no cost to you. So I would love to have that conversation with you further. If you have questions, of course, you can check us out down below. But so that's not don't get scammed out of not having representation. Don't get scammed out of somebody not being there to take care of you. When you see advertised rate buy downs, closing cost money, forward commitments, and we'll do a whole video later this year on forward commitments, rate buy downs, what those actually mean. But you'll see hey, a 299, 399, 499 rate, or you'll see up to $25,000 in closing costs. The caveats on those, one, they're most likely tied to in-house lending, which means if you go to Highland and you buy a Highland home, that means you're going to use Highland Home Loans to get that loan. If you go to David Weekley, you're going to use their lender, whoever. Most of the time, those are going to be tied like this, especially those forward commitments. So those rate buy downs where builders are coming in and saying, hey, we're pre-buy, hey, market says the rates are 7, we're going to make your rate 5.49. They're putting a lot of money on the table to get those. So it's so when you see it and you're like, hey, we get that, can we get additional closing costs with that? And they're like, no. And you're like, well, and you're just, whoa. And you're mad. It's guys, they're spending a lot of money on those forward commitments to make those deals make sense. So for example, I got a text earlier today, working on a deal right now, and we're kind of talking back and forth about a house. And again, this is a little bit higher of a price point home, so this rate buy down is going to be expensive. So the sales rep texted me and they said, hey, we're working on our rate buy down. Here's what we've got to play with. Just for reference, this rate buy down is costing us over $80,000 on this house. So we have to account for that in how we, again, how they margin, how they do all the things. So we're accounting for that. Like if we choose to go the route of the rate buy down, that's the monetary cost of doing it. It's not cheap. So when you see those things, it's most likely going to be tied to being with in-house lending and using their lender. Some builders will release partial funds if you go outside. Some will really, it just depends, but most likely it's going to be tied to that one. So we talked about that. We've said, hey, if we, and I'll say it again, we fire the gun and they say yes, we got to move forward, right? We get what we ask for. It's time to go make the house ours. Let's move. Lastly, last two things, contract wise, every builder uses their own contract. We have a video about this. We've talked about it in several other videos. If you want to jump on a Zoom call and walk through a builder contract, I'm happy to do that with you and just kind of give you a feel. But every builder uses their own contract. Those contracts are written for their benefit, not yours, and none of them are going to let you change it, right? Like if you're like, oh wait, I just want to red line this and cross this out, they're going to respectfully tell you thank you, but no thank you, you're not buying our home, because if we let you do it, we would make sure, we would let everybody do it, and then it wouldn't make any sense. So it's not going to change, but you still need to read it. You still need to understand it. Understand, the fact that your earnest money is non-refundable. Understand if you have an escalation clause, which most of them don't use anymore. You want to change it, like they're going to tell you no. So even though it's not going to change, make sure you read it. Make sure you understand it. If you have questions about it, I'm happy to talk through it with you. That's part of you having representation. So hopefully all of those things help you not feel like you're going to get ripped off. At the end of the day, they're in this to make money, but they're also in this to provide you a home. And if we can make that a win for you, it should be a win. Last thing I would tell you to help you not get ripped off and you're confused. If you're moving to Dallas, like we help a ton of relocation clients, and you're like, I'm not even sure. On top of the interactive map that anybody can use, we've also put together a new relocation guide that hopefully will help. It's got a couple of our favorite neighborhoods in there, a couple places to look out for, and some really, really good recommendations for restaurants. So you can check that out down in the description. Grab that if you have questions. And again, would love to help. So hopefully you feel like a rock star and you can walk in and get the home of your dreams with the best deal possible. And if you have questions, we're here to help. And if we can work together, we want to make that happen. So we'll see you guys in our next video.